listener production.
Hey, Bension Siebert here with The Briefing.
We hope to implement a policy that these kind of books, same-sex parents' books, do not find their way into our kids. Our kids shouldn't be sexualised. It's that simple.
Parents are free to choose which books their children can read. And it's important that our children know that their family is accepted. The gloating is pathetic, Councillor Christou. Just stop it. You look like the nastiest person ever holding that up like that. You've moved emotion that's saying that children with same-sex parents are not equal, are not okay, and not acceptable in Cumberland.
That was a recent meeting of a local council in Sydney, which has voted to ban books about same-sex parents from its libraries. 6 Cumberland City Councillors voted in favour of the ban. 5, including the Mayor, Lisa Lake, opposed it. This may be just one local council, but the book ban is making headlines across the country. The New South Wales government has warned it could breach the Anti-Discrimination Act and even threatened to pull the council's library funding as a result. But is it right for a local government to ban books it believes its constituents don't want in a public library? Is this plain bigotry? Or is it about protecting children? And if so, protecting them from what exactly? Councillor Steve Christou proposed the ban, arguing that most of the council's constituents are conservative and religious. He says his voters don't want, quote, any form of sexualised experiences available to children in the library. He joins me now. Steve, thanks for joining us on The Briefing. At the council meeting where you proposed this motion, you showed a picture of a book called Same-Sex Parents by Holly Duhigg. What do you find sexual about that book?
Well, look, our community, it's not specifically what we find sexual about that book. Our community strongly feels, or the majority of our community strongly feels, that children should just be allowed to go into a library and not have 2-, 3- and 4-year-olds questioning around same-sex parents. What's important for a young child or toddler is that they're in a home where they're loved, in a warm bed, got warm clothes, a roof over their head, and well taken care of, regardless if it's from traditional mum and dad or same-sex parents. And a lot of people in our community strongly feel that 2-, 3-, and 4- and 5-year-olds shouldn't be exposed to these kind of questions and books at such a young age.
What about 2-, 3-, 4- and 5-year-olds who are children of same-sex parents?
Again, what's important is that they're being raised, they're being raised and well cared for, and they shouldn't have to be questioning. They should be allowed to be children. They shouldn't be questioning or being burdened with adult issues. These are essentially adult issues, and we've been very firm on this. It's not just singling out same-sex parents. Our community...
But it is singling out same-sex parents, isn't it? Because the motion that was at the meeting says to rid same-sex parents' books/materials in the council's library service. That specifically says same-sex parents and says nothing about sexualisation.
My understanding is, and I was very firm, and I've been very firm when commenting about this, that we don't approve of any form of sexualisation to children in our councils. Now, this issue...
What's sexualising about same-sex parents?
Well, look, as I said, let kids be kids, okay? Children have a right to just go in and not having to worry about this. So if they have same-sex parents, well, great. As long as they're well cared for, not a problem. Children shouldn't have to worry about this at the age of 2, 3, and 4 years old. And we're reflecting the views of our residents. Australia would be a better place if more elected representatives actually did their job and represented their views of their local community. And our community are telling us loud and clear.
What's inherently sexual to you about same-sex parents as opposed to heterosexual parents?
Again, I've responded to that question. And you can ask it any way respectfully. You can ask it in 10 different ways.
Well, the reason I'm asking you that in that way is because there are parenting books that don't include same-sex parents. There are parenting books that are exclusively heterosexual, but this one is about same-sex parenting and it's age appropriate. That's what it says on the blurb. So what is it about this book that you find disturbing or that you don't think should be in the library?
Well, you say it's age appropriate. Many in our communities say they find it concerning that it's in the children's section of the library. As elected representatives, we have a responsibility.
Why?
So can you let me finish, please? As elected representatives, we have a responsibility to listen to the views of our community. It was only a few weeks ago that we had 400 people show up to a council meeting to oppose drag story reading time. Any elected representative that says they're not taking the views of their community seriously doesn't deserve to be in the job. Now, admittingly, you're never going to please every section of the community, no matter what decision you make as an elected representative. There's going to be some sections of the community unhappy. Cumberland City Council is a very diverse community, very multicultural community. 60% of our residents were born overseas. They hold very family, conservative and religious values. Regardless of what their religious background is, whether they're Christian, Catholic, Orthodox, Islamic, Buddhist, Hindu, it doesn't matter. And they are constantly relaying to us that we don't want any form of materials in our libraries that take away our children's innocence outside of being kids without having to go through unnecessary questions on issues they shouldn't have to worry about till later in life.
What about the 14% of your constituents who are atheist? How are they represented by this motion?
There's always going to be a section of the community that's not happy, and that's life. But at the end of the day, as elected representatives, we get judged once every 4 years by our community. Now, we have a unique community. We're not the inner west. We're not Newtown, Marrickville or Ashfield, where they're in support of these issues being in libraries. We have a unique community, and we're only representing the values and the views expressed to us by that community.
Okay, let's take the democratic principle that you're ascribing there and see if it applies to things that aren't inherently queer. Every census in Australia, more people say that they have no religion. It's up to about 40% now of the population. If atheism overtakes religiosity in Australia, should the federal government ban religious texts in order to protect children from questions about religion?
I'm not going to get into hypotheticals, okay? When that issue comes along, obviously we'll have those discussions, but I'm all about having open discussions, discussing facts and what's being conveyed to us.
Okay, but it's about a democratic principle.
I'm not going to engage in hypotheticals.
It's a democratic principle. You're saying that the majority of your community doesn't want same-sex parenting material in its library. I'm asking if the same thing happened on a larger scale about religion rather than sexuality, would you think that it's a good idea for the federal government to ban the Bible, the Quran, for example?
Well, good luck to them if they try. We're not. What you're trying to do is get into a broad church and umbrella. But, at the end of the day, elected representatives are elected to represent the views of their community. And that's exactly what I'm doing. And until those views change or, we'll be doing the same thing we always do. We're doing nothing less than what's expected of us as an elected representative. So, that's our responsibility to represent the views of what we feel are the majority of the community.
If your view is that the majority of the community has a problem with same-sex parenting or same-sex parents, do you feel that you need to reflect that in council policy? Isn't that just homophobia?
Well, look, no. I believe you're twisting it here. The majority of my parents or the complaints relayed to me do not have a problem with same-sex parents. What they have a problem with is controversial books being placed in there, regardless of their background, being placed in the infants or toddler section of our libraries.
Do you know any same-sex parents?
Yes, I do.
Have you spoken to them about this policy?
Not in the last 24 hours, but I've had a lot of gay people tell me they support the stance. There should not be any form of sexualisation, regardless of background.
We've established that both the motion that you brought to council does not talk about sexualisation, and this book that we're talking about
as I've already answered you. I just answered you.
Hasn't got sexual content in it. You brought up sexualisation. You're saying that's
and when I mean sexualisation, any form of questions are where a 2, 3 or 4-year-old are asking difficult questions that they shouldn't have to deal with. And, as I said before, if you're a young child, you're 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-year-olds, regardless of their age, the main issue is that they're in a home with loving parents, regardless of whether they're traditional mums and dads or same-sex parents. However, they shouldn't be burdened with going into a library and then questioning issues that are essentially for adulthood or why they're being raised for different parents. That's not for them. The main thing that, leave our kids alone. Kids just need to be loved and well looked after.
If you're a child and you go into a library and your parents are same-sex parents, I imagine that there are same-sex parent families in Cumberland Shire, and you see yourself represented in this kind of book. Isn't that a good thing? Doesn't that show that those people aren't alone?
No, it also raises questions too that possibly why am I different? And why am I being raised differently? And children shouldn't have to go through that. We're saying let kids be kids. All kids care about. I know when I was 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, children don't care about on who's raising them and sexual orientation. Children just want to play with their toys, play with their friends, and just enjoy themselves. It's very simple.
Do you worry that this intervention will do exactly the opposite of what you're hoping for and, in fact, increase the sales of this book?
Well, if it does, great. People, look, at the end of the day, people are very welcome to go out and purchase whatever they want in a private capacity. But when the majority of your residents are telling you we don't want taxpayer, ratepayer dollars having these books in the children's section of the library, you've got to take that seriously into account. Now, the whole issue would have never came to light if the book wasn't in the children's section of the library and perhaps was in the adult section of the library.
Do you think that all books that have any sexual content should be taken away from the library?
That's always been my consistent belief, and I've been very clear on this. If it creates confusion and burdens a child with unnecessary issues at a young age, yes, they shouldn't be in the library.
Would you say Twilight, the Bible?
Oh, look, I've been asked a question on the Bible. You find me a 2 or 3-year-old that can read and comprehend the Bible and understand it, then we'll have a discussion.
Okay. Steve Christou, thanks so much for joining us on The Briefing.
Thank you very much. Cheers. Bye-bye, guys.
Steve Christou there. That's it for The Briefing today. If you enjoyed today's interview or you like what we do here at The Briefing, hit follow so you never miss an episode and tell a friend about the podcast. The next episode of The Briefing will be in your feed from 6 a.m. tomorrow. I'm Bension Siebert. Catch you next time.